Hello guys, it's Alex here again and welcome to another course where we'll be looking at clipping mask. So clipping mask is another powerful way we can use to control the visibility of a layer in Photoshop. Just like the way we use the layer mask to control the visibility of objects or images in Photoshop. In as much as we control the visibility of objects in Photoshop using layer mask and clipping masks, they are both different things. The major difference between both of them is that with layer mask, we control visibility by painting black or white using a brush tool. But in layer mask, we use the content of a layer to control the visibility of another layer. Now let me show you what I mean by that. Let's say we have an image. Let's import an image into our artboard. So this is an image of a young man. This is the image of a young man, and you can see how wide the image is. All right, but then we want to adjust the visibility. We don't want the image to be shown everywhere. We just want to show the head of the guy. We just want to show the head of the guy, and clipping mask is one of the way we adjust the visibility of this young man. That is the visibility of this image. With layer mask, we can hide every other part of this image and leave only the head where we want to be seen. So instead of allowing the image of this young man to be seen everywhere because we just want the head to be seen, let's introduce an object in another layer to control the visibility. So we'll go right straight to our rectangle tool, double tap, double click so that we can actually get other tools. They'll go down to ellipse tool. We come over to the head of this young man and draw a circle. You have to hold down your shift key on the keyboard so that you can have a perfect circle. All right, then we have this, and as you can see, the circle is on a different layer entirely, while we have the layer of the young man, the layer that contains the image of the young man below. So all we have to do is to move the layer that contains the young man above the layer of the circle. So now we have double clicked and moved the layer upwards. You can see that blue line that shows above the layer of the circle. Once that shows up, you release your hand from your touchpad on your keyboard, or you release your hand from your mouse. Now the circle is hidden because it is below the image. Now we have to right click on this layer, but you don't have to right click on this particular place because it won't give us the option we need. We have to move your hand out of the thumbnail to the place where we have the name of the layer. That is where you right click to give us all the options we need. Now look at the options we are looking for, but if you right click here, these are the options it gives us, a different options altogether. So that's why we need to right click outside the thumbnail to give us all these options. Then you see this particular option, create clipping mask. You click on it, and instantly the image you had before that covered almost the entire artboard suddenly snaps into the circle that we drew before. So you see how we have controlled the visibility of the image by using the circle or the ellipse tool. So in graphic design, we use clipping masks a lot to adjust the visibility of images. So once you apply clipping mask. If you look closely at the layer that of the image, you can see there is this, the layer has shifted a little bit from where it was before, and there is this tiny arrow that is pointing down. And for if for any reason you don't like the position of this young man here, probably the picture is showing too much of the head, you can actually still resize the pictures in between. That's one of the beautiful things about clipping masks. You can move the pictures inside, arrange it to however you want. You can also still resize it, because while it's highlighted here, you can see the transform controls that are showing by the side. So with that transform controls, I can still resize my image to fit in to what I want. So once I'm comfortable with the way the image is, I hit the enter key on my keyboard. So this is simply how the clipping masks work. We can achieve this too with, let me get rid of this ellipse tool, which is the circle. We can achieve this too with other shapes in Photoshop. Let me go back to my ellipse tool, double tap on my touchpad on my laptop, then I'll go to rectangle tool. Let me use a rectangle this time. So I have a rectangle here. The rule is that you have to have the image that you want to resize, or the object you want to resize, above the layer that will be controlling its visibility. So you need to always have the image layer above the rectangular layer, or the rectangle layer, just the same way we had the image layer above the ellipse tool or the circle layer before. So once you are here, we just have to right click. You can right click, as I told you before, don't right click here on the thumbnail, you won't get the option you need. So you can move your hand out to this place where we have the name of the layer, and then right click. Then you see a lot of options come up, and you go for create clipping mask. You hit on it, and instantly the picture gets fitted into the rectangle. Then let us use Ctrl Z to undo that. We can still create clipping mask by clicking on this layer, highlighting it. So now this layer is highlighted. I can still go over to the layer panel over here at the top here. Once I click on the layer panel, I still get to see the option to create clipping mask. So you see here, create clipping mask, and I still get to achieve the same result. All right, let me undo that again. Ctrl Z. If you go to this layer panel at the top here, it also gives you the shortcut. If you noticed here, the create clipping mask here is not active, it is grayed out, which shows you that it is not active. Why? Because we have not highlighted the layer we want to mask. All right, so we always make sure that the layer you want to mask is highlighted first before going to the layer panel up here. So it's highlighted here, so we'll go straight to the layer panel up here, and you see now it is no longer grayed out like this, it is now clickable. So there is also a shortcut, which is Alt plus Control plus G on the Windows laptop. On an Apple laptop, it should be Options plus Command plus G. So hold your Option key, at the same time you hold your Control key, and at the same time you hold your letter G. On a MacBook or on a Windows laptop, you hold your Alt key, hold your Control key, and hold your letter G, and it will instantly create a clipping mask. Let's try that. So here is highlighted. I'm holding my Alt now, holding my Control next, and I'm hitting the letter G. It works. So let's undo that. There is one other way, one other shortcut we can use to create clipping masks in Photoshop. You just simply have to hold down your Alt key. Now pay attention to where my cursor is here at the layer panel. Look closely at the cursor itself. Right now the cursor is showing the image of a hand, right? My cursor is a hand, right? So to create a clipping mask, I just have to hold down the Alt key. Now while I'm holding down the Alt key and I move my cursor down, you see, if you notice, my cursor instantly changed from being a hand to being a box with a little arrow beside it by the left, a little arrow beside it on the left. I hope you're seeing this. I'm still moving my cursor out so that you can notice that box with an arrow by the left. Once I move my cursor down to the lines that is separating the layers, it instantly turns to a box with an arrow. My hand is still on the Alt key on the keyboard. So once I get that box, all I need to do is to click on my touchpad on my touchpad on the keyboard, or I'll just, if you're using a mouse, you can left click. Once you left click, instantly you create a clipping mask. So this is another shortcut. In fact, I use this one a lot. I don't go to the layer mask. I don't go to the layer panel here, or I don't even use the right click in here. Don't do that. What I do is, anytime I want to create a clipping mask, I just hold down my Alt key on the keyboard and just tap. And once I do that, and just click once I do that, it instantly creates a clipping mask for me. All right. In case you want to remove the clipping mask, for example, maybe you suddenly change your mind, you don't want to apply clipping masks anymore, all you have to do is to still hold down on your Alt key and move your cursor down, and you can see it still shows you the box with the arrow, but this time around the arrow is cancelled. So you just have to click again, and when you click, the clipping mask is gone. You reverse the clipping mask. So in this short video, I have been able to show you clipping mask and how we can achieve clipping mask in graphic design. We use clipping masks a lot in graphic designs, especially designing event flyers where we have a lot of speakers and we need to show the head, like the headshots of the speakers. You know, when you ask for the pictures of the speakers, the event organizer will send you a lot of pictures. Sometimes the picture will be full picture of the person from head to toe. You won't add the picture from head to toe on the flyer design. You just only have to add the headshots of all the speakers. Now this is where clipping mask comes into use. Now let me go ahead and show you examples of some of the applications of clipping masks. Now this is an event flyer, and as you can see here, these are the speakers at the event, and you can see how the circle has been used to snap the speakers into, or the circle have been used to show the headshot of the speakers only. This has been possible with clipping mask. Here is another Beyond just using regular shapes like circle or squares or triangles, we can actually use the clipping mask to do stuff like this. You can see that the head of Mandela has been contained into the map of Africa. So you simply do this by having the shape of Africa instead of using normal shapes like squares, rectangles, or circles. The designer here used the map of Africa instead. So you can be creative with the clipping mask. You don't have to be limited to just the regular or geometrical shapes. So here is another example. Here is a movie poster of, I think these are actually rectangles that are slanted a bit. And here the image of the actor in this movie, Denzel Washington, they use this clipping mask to put his image behind these shapes. All right, so these are some of the ways we use clipping mask in design to make amazing concepts. The use of the clipping mask is not just limited to using shapes, just the way we use circles here and squares, or the way um, an irregular shape here has been used, like the map of Africa, right? In this instance, we can also use texts in clipping mask. You can also apply clipping masks on a text. And let me show you how we do that in Photoshop. Let's bring in another image this time around. Let's use this image with a lot of red background. So let me move. Now let's work with this image that has a lot of red. This is because this image will be more visible for what we're about to do next. The other one has a lot of white, like this other one has a lot of white around it, so you might not notice the effect. Let's delete this image of this young man. We don't need him anymore. Even this rectangle too, let's do away with it. So let's create a new layer, and let's add text in the new layer. So let's add girl. Let's type girl, GIRL. I just type girl, but you're not seeing it because it is too tiny. You can see how small it is. 0.85 point, like it's too small. So I just have to click on my move tool, then hover near where I typed in the text girl, and my cursor instantly changed to an arrow, a two-sided or two-headed arrow. Then I can double click on my touchpad, or if you're using a mouse, hold down on your left key, then drag out. As you drag out, you expand the text. So now my text is way much more bolder. Let me drag it out more. I need to fill I need to fill or get to the edge of the artboard. So I think I'm okay with this. I click enter on my keyboard. Then let me drag it to centralize it a little bit. Then I want to, I want to fill this text GIRL with this image behind. And the way we can do that is just the same way we've been doing other ones, by using clipping mask. Remember, you always have to put the image you want to mask above the layer that you want to use to control the mask. So the image of this girl has to go above the image of the text. Then right here, the girl is hidden because the text girl is hidden because it is right below the image of the girl, the image of this lady here. All we have to do is to hold down, either we hold down the Alt key on our keyboard, hover our mouse in between the two layers and click on our keyboard, or we right click on this panel to bring out a lot of options. You can come here, then see the create clipping mask, or we can choose to go with this place still highlighted. You can choose to go to the layer panel up here and still go for create clipping mask, or you can choose to hold the Alt and Control plus G key on your keyboard. Yes, your Windows keyboard, or you can actually make it your Option or Command plus G key on your MacBook if you're using an Apple laptop. But me, I prefer holding down my Alt key, then hover on in between these two panels. So once I click on that, instantly the picture of the girl gets contained by the text GIRL. All right. So you can see the image we have is now inside the text, and you can choose to move the image around, align it to however you want. All right, you can choose to expand it if you feel it is too small. So I think this is way much better than like this. I just have to hit the enter key on my keyboard. So you see how we have controlled the visibility of our images by using the content of another layer. We use the shapes in another layer, which is the circle, the squares, and the triangles. We also use the text in another layer to control the visibility of the image of this girl. So that's that for this course. And as an activity for this course, I want to create something now, and you would replicate that and send in the group. So let me bring back the former image of that young man. Let me delete this. Let me delete this as well. Let me go to my folder where I have the image of that girl, of that man. So here is the image of the young man. I bring him right here, and here we have this man back. All right. So this is what I need you to do. I need to create a clipping mask for this man. We have to do that by placing a rectangle or square on the man. Let's drag out the top of the square a little bit so that it won't be just a square. I want it to be a rectangle. So click enter. So for this triangle, I want you to adjust the properties, right? You see that if you noticed, let me click outside the artboard so that you understand what I'm trying to say. You see that the edge of the triangles are sharp. Sorry, the edge of the rectangle, the edges are sharp, but I don't want that. I want to make the edges a little bit round. I will do that by going to the properties panel here, this icon here. Look at this icon here. Once you hover on it, it shows you properties. You click on it. First, it's either you make sure that the rectangle is highlighted first of all before going down to the properties, or once you click on the properties, all right, you then have to go and click on the rectangle. Then here I now have the properties of this rectangle. So if you look at this place, this area is where we control the edge. This place is where we control the edge of the rectangle. Now whatever number I put here, like let me say one of the angles should be the top left angle should be 10 pixels. So once I click enter, you see how every single angle has turned to 10 pixels each. Do you know why? It's because of this link here. It shows that all the angles are linked together. So whatever change you make to one edge affects every other edges or angles. So let me type in 30 pixels, 30, and click enter on my keyboard. I'm doing all this so that so that the edges will be, so that you can notice. If it's too small, you might not notice that the edge is no longer sharp. All right, so take a closer look at the edge of our rectangle, and you notice that it is not as sharp as it used to be. It is curved a bit at an angle of 30 pixels. Then let's choose to make one side a 50 pixel. Right, but you know that if you click on the enter key right now, every other angles will adjust. But since we don't want that, let's click on this link here. So once I click on this link icon in between, you see that it is no longer highlighted. And once I click on the enter on my keyboard, I have here 50, I have here 30, 30, 30, right? Let me also try 100. And I click enter. You see I have here 100 and I have other angles to be 30 pixel. Let's minimize this so you can see how this has affected the rectangle. You can see that on the rectangle, the top left angle is way much more bigger than every other edges. All right, so since we don't want that now, let's go back and click on our link so that we have to make everything uniform. So let me try again. I think I'm okay with that 30 pixel initially. One other place we can actually control or put in numbers that can affect every other angles at once, or every other corner that can affect the entire corner radius, is by coming to this bar up here. Instead of going to these individual bars or individual fields, where these individual fields come into play or come into use is where you have to make designs where each of the corner radius or each of the angles of the edges, in fact they're actually called corner radius, each of the corner radius are different. So you come here, remove the link, go and put each numbers that are different from each other. You come and put all the different numbers for the corner radius here. But then where you don't have that case, you want to have a uniform where you have to have a uniform radius for the whole edges. You just have to come here and type in 30px. Once you just type that in and click enter, you see that instantly reflects on all the edges here. Beyond using pixels, you can also use inches as well. You can use 2 inches, 2 in, click enter, and you see 2in, I think, is way too big, and it instantly turn all the it instantly turn the rectangle to a circle. Okay, let's try 0.5. 0.5 in, which is inches. Okay, so here we have this, but I prefer using pixels. You can use anyone that works for you, it doesn't matter. So back to the assignment, to the activity. All right, so we have a rectangle with rounded edges, right, which is 30 pixels in radius, in corner radius, right? You can see it here. This is where you can control that. Then you move your image layer above the rectangle layer. Once you have done that, you just have to make a clipping mask. I'm holding down my Alt key on the keyboard, hovering in between the layers, and yes, our clipping mask icon has appeared, and I click once on my keyboard, or I click once on my mouse or on my touchpad. Then I instantly have my image contained within the boundaries of the rectangle. So once I have this, I'm creating another rectangle. All right. This time we are not adjusting the edge of this rectangle. This rectangle is above every other layers, but we don't want that. We're moving it down below the first triangle here. So I'm double clicking, holding down to drag the layer of this new triangle down. So I'm putting it below the layer of the first triangle. So here we have this. Let me adjust the width a little bit. All right. Let me adjust the top as well. So now we have this. To move all the elements together, I just have to double click. All right. I just have to double click outside the boundaries of either of the elements, because if I just double click here, I'll end up moving only the image of the young man. All right. If I double click here too, I'll end up moving only the rectangle. So I'm going far out of all the images or all the elements, then double clicking and dragging down to all, and dragging down. Then if you noticed, while I drag down, I have touched my mouse has, touched or highlighted or selected. My mouse has selected every element here. If you looked at the layer, you notice that all the elements are selected apart from the background layer, which is locked. You can see the lock here. You can also choose to unlock it if you want, but then we don't want to unlock it, right? Go back here and lock it back. So let me double click again and highlight all of them. So once they're all highlighted, I can use my mouse, double clicking on any part of the shapes or the element, and move all the elements as a group. Let me adjust the edges of this rectangle. I don't like how sharp it is. Let's make it let's make it 20 pixels, 20 px. Let's see how that is. Okay, I think 20 px is okay. Then once we have this, I need you to come hit the text tool here and write on and write clipping mask. So I'm hovering on top of my text area so that my two-headed or two-sided arrow can appear, so I can drag out. And I click enter. Now I'm not seeing my text because my text is the same color with this rectangle here. So to change the color of the text, I have to go to the property panel as well. Since my text is just highlighted, I go to the properties panel, click on the color. See the color here. See color here. I can actually adjust the alignment here if I choose to. But then I click on the color and choose white. All right. So while I'm moving the word clipping mask, if you noticed, there are tiny pink lines that are appearing at the center of my artboard. This is to show me that I have gotten the word or the text clipping mask to the center of the artboard. So I can leave it there because it is now centralized. It is at the center. So this is what I want you to do. All right. I am not uploading this picture to the course folder. You must not use this picture. In fact, what I want you to open up a random, just get a random image. It can be image of yourself. It can be image of anybody. It can be image of an animal. I don't care. All I just need you to do is to simply get an image of, or just image of anything, any object or any animal or any human or yourself, whatever you want. Get the image, make a clipping mask for it, then also get another rectangle behind where you can write this on top, then write this clipping mask on top. Right, that's what I need you to do here. Then we can actually choose to add some shadow to this last triangle, to this background rectangle. We can also actually choose to add some shadow effect to make it pop out a bit from the background. Let's try that. So I create a new layer by clicking on this icon here, the create new layer icon. I have to, since the shadow has to be behind the rectangle, I need to move the layer behind the rectangular layer. Then I have to go straight to the brush tool, which is here, or I use the letter B on the keyboard. Then our brush tool is, you see, looking at our cursor, you see that the brush tool is small. So I have to increase the tip, the size of the tip, by clicking on my right square bracket on the keyboard. All right. Then once I've done that, this is the color. I don't want to change the color. Let's leave it at this. So I'll come over to the edges and be tapping at the edges. If you noticed, we are having some shade of sea green. Yeah, this is sea green. we're having some shade of sea green around we're having some shade of sea green around our rectangle, background rectangle. All right, this looks cool. Okay, let's try black. Let me delete the, okay, let me not delete this. Let me switch off the visibility. All right, let me hide that. Let me open another layer, and let's use black instead this time. Let me click on the color here and change the color to black, something dark. It doesn't have to be extremely black. Let me just something dark but not extremely black. So this is okay. Then I go over to the brush tool once more and begin to tap. All right. So tapping at the edge. I'm tapping right at the edge of the background rectangle. Then I'm now concentrating more at the middle. I'm no more going to the edges, right? I'm now somewhere at the middle, right? Let me do that again at the middle. The middle here, at the middle here as well. So I'm no more going to the edges, right? I just tapped one more time at the middle, top middle, middle at the top, bottom middle, side middle, and the other side middle as well. So if you look closely, what we have been able to achieve with this brush tool, by dropping the shadows, we made this little design we have just made look as if it's popping out of the background popping out of our artboard. Like it is not on the artboard. It's looking like it is a little bit lifted from the background. All right, so this is what I want you to do. This is the assignment I have for you for this course. Do this and submit in the group. And for my brush, I need to point out that I used a soft round brush and with the hardness down to 0%. I only adjusted just the size of the tip to get what I want. All right, so I'm just showing you this so that you can make sure you have the same brush and set the hardness down to 0%. Maybe you can just choose to adjust the size of the tip to get whatever you want. So when you're done, it's either snap the screen and send to the group, or you can actually go over to the file here, scroll down to save or save as. Let's try save as. Then you see here we have file name. We can just use the file name as clipping mask, and go to save as type. Instead of choosing Photoshop, you can now scroll down to choose JPEG. So you click on JPEG, and you choose the folder you want to save it to. I just chose desktop. And once you have decided the folder, you just come right to the bottom here and click save. Then it will ask you to decide the quality of the file. Then you see, and also it's showing the size of the file here. The size of this file is 1.2 megabyte. Then you can reduce it a little bit. All right, the size is too high. The quality is still high. Okay, which is, we have high quality now at 266 kilobyte, which is okay. Then we now click on the OK. So right now, if I go to my desktop, I can see my image here. Yep. So you can actually choose to send this, or you can screenshot your your Photoshop, or you can snap your screen, or you can use a screenshotting software or a screenshotting application. I think it comes with your laptop by default. Sniping tool. You can use the sniping tool to snap the screen and send. So that's that for this course. See you in the next course.